Okay, so let's dive into something we all do, probably dozens of times a day, without a second thought saying hello. Seems simple, right? But what if I told you there's a hidden universe tucked inside that one little word? A space that, if you notice it, could change everything about how you connect with the world.
So I want you to really think about this for a second. What actually happens before the word hello even leaves your lips? Before you consciously decide to speak, what's going on in that tiny split second? It's a moment we almost always just steamroll right past, but it's where the whole interaction actually begins.
You know, in a lot of contemplative practices, like Earth Song, the most important part of a greeting isn't the word itself. It's not the smile or the wave. The moment that truly matters, the one that sets the tone for everything else, happens just before any of that.
We're going to zoom way, way in here on something incredibly subtle. It's this layer of awareness that shows up before a conscious thought, before an emotion, even before a clear physical feeling. It's this pre-verbal, pre-thought space that is so easy to miss.
This initial flicker of awareness, well, it has a name. It's called the threshold of sentience. But hang on, this isn't about consciousness or deep thoughts like we usually imagine. It's something way more basic. Just a faint orientation, a simple, almost instinctual turning toward something.
Yeah, so when we hear the word sentience, our minds usually jump to a fully formed experience, right? Like a feeling or a clear thought. But for what we're talking about here, the meaning is way more delicate. Here, sentience is simply that faint turning towards something, happening in that moment before your brain has a chance to label it or understand it or even fully feel it.
So let's break down this little micro shift. It happens in a flash, but it kind of has three parts. First, your attention just leans. It's not a decision, it's more like a gentle pull. Then, number two, something registers. Not a full thought like, oh, there's a person, but just a flicker, an impression of something else being there. And finally, you get this tiny hint of being met, a subtle sense that you're not alone in that awareness.
I mean, we're talking about a tiny, fleeting moment, a fraction of a second, really. But that little sliver of time, that is the absolute foundation that all genuine contact is built on. Everything that comes next, whether it's a deep conversation or just a quick nod, it all rests on what happens right there, at that initial threshold. And this is the absolute heart of a practice like Earth Song. It's built entirely on learning to live in that fraction of a second, that moment before our minds chop everything up into neat little boxes like me and you, or person and tree. It's this space of pure, open potential, where real connection is actually born. So, in that tiny fraction of a second, we hit a critical fork in the road. Our awareness can go one of two ways, and it leads to two totally different kinds of interactions. One is symbolic, and the other is truly relational. Okay, so on one path, we have the symbolic hello. This is what happens most of the time, right? We just bypass that initial threshold completely. The hello becomes a performance, a social script we're running. It's just an idea of a greeting. But on the other path, you get the relational hello. This happens when we just stay with that threshold, even for a millisecond. The hello then becomes something that actually carries contact, a real bridge between you and whatever you're meeting. And this is so important. The whole point here isn't to get better at saying hello. It's not about finding the perfect words or having a warmer smile. That's just focusing on the performance, on the symbolic stuff. The real practice is something else entirely. The whole thing really just boils down to two simple but, wow, incredibly difficult things. First, just notice that subtle pre-word moment of sentience. And second, try not to overwrite it. Don't just rush past it with your agenda and your autopilot brain. It's about a gentle, deliberate pause. So ultimately, this whole thing is about a choice. It's a choice we make hundreds of times a day without even knowing it. It's the art of noticing. Do we actually inhabit that foundational moment of connection, or do we just ignore it and move on with the script? And the consequences of that choice, they're huge. This really brings us to the key takeaway. Everything that follows depends on whether that moment is inhabited or ignored. Just let that sink in for a second. The quality of our relationships, our sense of presence, our whole connection to the world around us, it all hinges on what we do in that tiny space before hello. So the real question isn't just about understanding this idea, it's about trying to feel it. As you go about your day today, when you greet a coworker, your friend, your dog, even a plant in your house, where can you notice this threshold? What happens if, just for a moment,
You don't rush past it. Just try it and see.